Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Dr. Nick, the Incrementalist. Join me as I seek out the small incremental changes being applied in other industries that we can learn from and that can be applied in healthcare. Can these changes bring immediate value, but also add up to the big improvements and revolution we need in healthcare? Come along with me to explore the possibilities. My innovative guests from around the globe have used small incremental improvements to achieve their moonshot.
And today, I'm delighted to be joined by Mehdi Bentanfous, who is the CEO of Kinexon. Mehdi, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm very excited about this. I came across the technology. Kinexon has done an incredible job. I think it was reported in the CDC insights that came out relative to the NFL and some of the contact tracing and the incredible science. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to be in this role, with Kinexon, if you would.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your time today, and I'm really excited to be with you. The way where I am right now with Kinexon has been a long way. Now back to 2015, where I brought Kinexon to the US. Back in the days, Kinexon was focusing on industrial solutions in the IoT or digitalization world, but also more specifically on the sports side, implementing our technology to track professional athletes during the practice and during the game. And this is really how we started here in the US back then, where we came to explore the market, since we saw the US market as a very important market when it comes to high-tech technologies in different industries. And from there, we start building our brand, where we were able to be very successful in the sports world with most of the NBA teams using our technology by now, but also in other sports like NCAA basketball or American football. And me personally, being an engineer and also having experience in economies and basically in the investment world, it was really exciting to see how we can bring a new technology to a new market like the North American market, and how it developed over time. And here we are today with not only these products, but also product that we brought out last year during this pandemic.
So when you first introduced this, tell us a little bit about the technology and why these teams were interested. What was going on and what does it do?
So the underlying technology is really to get precise positional data in real time to track the movement of an athlete, for example. So the industry or the sport industry was lacking really reliable technologies to understand how athletes can move on a court or on the pitch, and this in a very precise way and in a reliable way. And this is the biggest differentiation we had with our Kinexon technology, is that we were able to provide wherever we implemented it, either in American football, in soccer, in basketball, or any other sport. We were able to provide reliable data for the coaches or also for the fans to understand better how the athlete moves and also how the athlete is performing. And the fact that we were providing not only as hardware, but also an analytics or smart analytics with our software, that would make the difference. So any of our clients are looking for the so what, not looking only at the data, but what can I do with the data? And if it's really enhancing the fan engagement, or in a lot of cases also understand the performance of the player and prevent him from injuries, this is the value add of the Kinexon technology in general. And that's what made our success, not only in the sports, but also in the industrial world when it comes to understanding processes, automate processes, and increase the efficiency through these data points that we provide.
So, clearly highly focused around athletics, that precision element, I think you do something unique, certainly relative to some of the other technologies that people may be familiar with in terms of getting that precision. Can you tell us a little bit about how you do it, what's going on behind the scenes?
So this is the underlying technology that we're talking about, which is the so-called ultra-wideband radio frequency technology. So if you look at other technologies out there that are used for localization, like for instance Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or GPS, always the challenge was to have always reliable data, no interferences with other technologies, and really get a precise data that is not 1 or 2 feet with 1 or 2 feet accuracy, but really down to the inch. Radio frequency and specifically the ultra wideband has proven to be exactly the right one. This is something that we developed around 8 years ago. If you look at the interest of the market right now, like the Apples and Samsung of this world, they're even looking at this exactly the same type of technology because they see the precision and the reliability of it. And we build our solutions around ultra wideband technology, which is very useful to get, first of all, a precision of 3 to 4 inch or an accuracy of 3 to 4 inch. At the same time, we're using so high a bandwidth prevent us from being interfered with any other media technologies or machinery wherever we are. So the technology can be used in a manufacturing environment with a lot of machinery. It can be used in a stadium with 150,000 people using their phones. We never have any interference. We always have the reliability and the accuracy of the data.
Fantastic. So, down to 3 or 4 inches, that's incredible. And I think I'm right in saying that it's localized. So it's a device that people wear. We'll feature that in the blog post. But is there anything else that's sensing? Is that how does the sensing of that happen? Are there sensors around?
So we have to differentiate what kind of solutions we're talking about. So for instance, when it comes to the sports performance solution or the industrial one, where we need a very high precision of the position of someone and how he's moving, or a product, how it's moving within a production site. In that case, we are talking about determining the exact position, so really tracking of the person or of the product. In that case, the sensor is used as a tracking device, but also we put the so-called anchors or satellites around the area we are tracking. And that works exactly like a satellite, like GPS. The only difference is that we build our own satellites around the area we are looking at. In the case of SafeZONE or the case of the solution for the COVID-19 response, we don't track the position of someone. We don't need to know how someone is moving. We just need to know what contacts this person has made and how close was this person to another one. So it's a really different methodology that we're using here. And that helped us get rid of the whole satellite infrastructure that we usually need for our other applications. So in the case of SafeZone, it's really about detecting other sensors around that sensor and really measuring just the distance to another sensor. And that topic you will see it's really relevant because at the end we don't want to track the position or the movement of someone. We just need to know how many contacts did this person have during a period of time.
Right. So thinking about this, one of the reasons that I came to this was around COVID-19. And I think this was part of the sort of augmentation of the technology. It was, I don't want to say a natural progression, but obviously you watched the unfolding of the pandemic, realized that Kinexon had technology that could play a major part in tracking individuals and created SafeZone. You started to describe it, but help everybody understand, what does this constitute? If you installed or put SafeZone in, what would that look like for a company, a location? I know we've done it in the NFL and some of these other places, but what does that look like?
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. It's really everything is around the safe tag or the sensor itself, which is usually comes into in a charging tray. The individual will take the sensor out. They place the sensor either in a badge, in a lanyard, or on a wrist, in a wristband. So it looks like an iWatch, so to say. And this is basically it. So with a sensor that is recording basically every contact it makes to other sensors, and after let's say 15 hours or 20 hours of recording, it's placed into a charging tray, and this data is then uploaded into the software. So to make it simple is really the sensor itself and the contact tracing, we call it the exposure management software that we have. So there is no need for satellites or anchors. There is no need for any infrastructure. It can be used in any environment, and doesn't need, if we scale it in a bigger way, doesn't need to be let's say a lot of implementation efforts. So this is the system, how it is used, and really what it covers are two things. The first one, or let's say the two features, are the physical warning. Basically, the sensors tells me if I get too close to someone else. There is an audible and a red flashlight alarm, and a visible one on the tag itself, and there is an audible alarm. The audible alarm is when we are too close to someone else for a longer period of time. And these are the two criteria that have been discussed out there, and also are recommended by the CDC, is reduce the number of critical contact, don't get too close to someone, and especially do not stay too long next to someone. And these are the two criteria we use to identify these contacts. And so that's the first one. That's the hardware, that's the safe tag. And then the contact tracing or the exposure management, as soon as we have this data uploaded, we're able to instantly identify any critical contacts that have been made within a period of time. So these are the two functionalities that we saw are fundamental or important in order to, when it comes to implementing a contact tracing technology.
So for those of you just joining, I'm Dr. Nick, the Incrementalist, and today I'm talking to Mehdi Bentanfous. He is the CEO of Kinexon. We were just talking about the implementation of SafeZONE, the innovation that took the tag system that you had, but focused more on identifying contacts and contact-related interactions. People pull the safe tag off a board, it's allocated to an individual, and then it does a number of things that I think are really unique and important to explore. And I think, one of the big differentiators for me is the personally identifiable tracking of somebody. I think this was one of the big pushbacks for installing applications on phones, and all of these things sort of invade privacy, which is a big challenge. Certainly in this country, there's a lot of resistance. And your solution, whilst it tracks individuals, it's obviously linked to an individual, doesn't locate them as such. It's locating their interactions. So how does that process work, and what have you seen as a result of this sort of implementation? Have you seen some of the results as it's been rolled out?
Well, if we talk about quickly about the privacy, which is a really important aspect when it came to designing the solution, as we were aware of the importance of the privacy, not only in European countries, but also here in the US. And we saw a lot of, let's say at the beginning, at least, a pushback, because most of the technologies out there, especially when it comes to phone apps, there is a worry from the public that it is tracking more than it should be tracking. And the two aspects that we worked on by when we designed the solution to let's say to meet the requirements or the privacy requirements, the one is, what do we track? And tracking is not the right word here, because we're not tracking, we're just recording contacts. As we mentioned before, we're not interested in the position or the movement of someone. We're just focusing on the context. The second point that is interesting here is also what kind of information we record in our systems. Means we don't have any personal information about the individuals at the first place, but even more important, we have an anonymized system. So we limit the access of this information to really the designated responsible of the contact tracing. Let's say in a production environment or in a manufacturing environment, we have a medical department that is responsible for the contact tracing, which is sometimes also within partly with HR representatives, and only these designated responsibles do have access to the information about which sensor is used by which person. So even within the system, you cannot allocate the sensor to a specific person. So it has to be really designated persons that are allowed to see this information. So we really limit the access to this information to only few people within an organization, which give us the ability to use the system everywhere without giving too much information about the individuals themselves. So these are the 2 points that were important in order to meet also the GDPR requirements, but also to make the people feeling more safe that we're not sharing too many information about them.
Right, and before the break, you mentioned, there's real-time feedback. So this isn't just a reporting system. This is actually a system that takes account of, I'm assuming, some level of programmability in terms of those contact points, distances, what triggers those alerts, and then also takes that information to say, and importantly, I think one of the things that we saw as a result of the technology that you implemented was the change in guidance from 15 minutes over the period of a day to 15 minutes cumulative. So you could have, 2 minutes here, 7 minutes, and that essentially was data that came, I think, from Kinexon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. So there are few things that we do in real time. First of all, the real time aspect is important for the warning. So basically, I want to immediately, if there is a contact, inform the person or the individual that there was a contact. Now, with the data that we're collecting, we can understand also better if a few of my protocol or measures that I'm implemented did work or not. For example, if you know who is using the technology and you know where the persons are located, let's say in meeting rooms. So I know that these 10 or 20 individuals, they're all working in that area. And I see that there is too many contacts happening throughout the day or in a certain period of time. What happens then is I can redesign the workspace so that I decrease these number of critical contacts. So the information that we provide helps actually testing our measures that we have in place as a response for COVID-19, and helped many of our clients out there to redesign these measures, to redesign the workspace to decrease the number of contacts people have. One funny story was one of our clients had complaints from the employees about this alarm that is happening too much in a certain area of the facility, and the response was, the problem is not the technology. The problem is that we don't have enough space in these area in order to be far away from each other. So that's why we don't switch off the technology. Let's have a better plan on redesigning our workspace.
Yeah, so they didn't like the fact that it was alerting to them to the fact that they had this problem, but I think, absolutely important in that. So this is just truly fascinating. I think it opens up a whole world of possibility, and, clearly done some incredible work with sports teams and, those areas. But now this is an opportunity for other places. I mean, you've got other clients using this. Where do you see this going in the closing minutes of the show? Tell us a little bit about the future. I mean, this is an exciting time because this really pivots us to a pathway to allow some level of normality, irrespective of what happens with vaccines and all these other things. We're going to have to sort of take account of this. Where do you see this going?
Absolutely. So sports, our focus was never only on sports. Of course, through our contact that we have over the last few years and also our name known in the market, we started with implemented it in sports. Let's say for sports leagues for the return of sports, but honestly, we had more than 250 implementations outside of the sports business, and we see implementation in really completely different industries, from the manufacturing and logistic industry, from film productions like Netflix, who is using it in their productions, to let's say office spaces with many in the New York area financial institutions that are using Kinexon. So the fact that we can use the technology everywhere, it is really relevant to every type of, let's say, business or institutions where there is kind of a gathering. And I think that not only in the public area is such a technology relevant, where it can be used in schools. We have it used also in universities, for example, but also in the private sector, where all of our clients, their biggest worries is to keep their employees safe and at the same time keep their business open. And without a contact tracing, both and physical warning, both are not 100% possible. And in order to react quickly to any outbreak or any infections out there, you need a reliable contact tracing. It's, I think, mandatory or will be mandatory over the next years. But also, in order to keep the employees safe, is have sort of a warning and help or support for the individuals. I think that's really important too. So I see this technology in general beyond this pandemic and probably in the future to be an important part in order to keep everyone safe and at the same time bring a little bit of normality back.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that occurs to me as you talked about the meeting rooms and the insights that came from that, much as you did with the sports world, the insights that start to come from that, maybe beyond medical in terms of efficiencies. What are people actually doing in terms of the movements around and interactions? I just think this is fantastic technology that sort of has arrived at a good time to deliver value to people that are desperate for solutions to help them get back. And I'm extraordinarily excited about it. So I'm very grateful to you. Unfortunately, as usual, we've run out of time. Just remains for me to thank you for coming on the show, sharing some of these experiences, and telling us a little bit about Kinexon and what you're doing to help resolve the pandemic. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to be with you today.
Thanks for joining me today. Do you have any better ideas, or have you found a small incremental change that's brought about a big improvement in your world? Let's continue the conversation on our hashtag, the Incrementalist, or share with me at Dr. Nick1 on Twitter. You can find more information about the show on our program page at healthcarenowradio.com. And tune in next time to hear my discussions with leaders and innovators from around the globe who've revolutionized their space by using small incremental improvements to achieve their moonshot. I'm Dr. Nick, the Incrementalist, and I'm starting a revolution through evolution.